Good morning, everyone. So, today we are going to be talking about what SDGs are, and specifically, we are going to analyze critically about SDG 8, that is decent work and economic growth. We are going to be looking at what are the growth patterns, how we have got benefits from this, and what are the challenges we still face. And mainly, we are going to focus on challenges, but let's go. So, what are sustainable development goals? So they are basically global framework which are introduced by UN to make the to have a universal agenda, like a framework for policy making by the countries and for the countries, so that they can follow these goals. They have set 17 goals and 169 targets which come under those goals. These are said to be ambitious, interconnected. Well, basically, these improve the quality of life and ensure that a basic minimum has been given to every person, to every country that is united with the United Nations. So it was adopted in 2015, and the goals target deadline is 2030. Uh, then let's see what we're not gonna see what the goals are. There are 17 goals. They include no hunger, no poverty, clean, safe water, or clean climate and gender equality, and a lot of those. We are basically going to be focusing on SDG 8, that is sustainable, decent work, and economic growth. So, SDG 8 promotes sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, productive employment, and decent work for all. It is divided into two. You have two parts. One is your the part which includes your sustained growth, like sustained economic growth that will bring in more money and everything, so that the global economy can still boost and fund all other SDGs and all the policies. And the other way is the decent work, so that we don't go on unethical or exploited labor for achieving the economic growth. We have to make sure that the work life and the working conditions and the wages and everything are decent. Remember, the work decent work is not defined by just money. It is defined by what are the working conditions, mentally and physically, are they suited for an employer and employee, and many other factors. How productive is the employee, how productive is the employment, how supportive is the entrepreneurship, how supportive is the government for the entrepreneurs and the small enterprises. We have to look at all of those all come under SDG 8. Then why SDG 8 matters? So like I said, we need money, we need the funds to drive the public revenue for health, education, safety nets, and basically that means that we need funds to run around the economy, to run around every other services that we need, that can indirectly or directly uh, carry out the rest of the SDGs, and also a lot of other policies that can be implemented. Reduces poverty. So basically, yeah, of course, you see, if everyone decently works, if everyone has a decent work that is decently paid wages, nobody will stay in poverty. And if no one is in poverty, the economy will run pretty well, and that will lead to a growth spurt that we haven't seen ever. That's why employment is a primary path out of poverty for households worldwide. It will automatically increase living standards. And you know what that happens when you have enough money? You're not poor, so no poverty. You're not hungry. You have clean sanitation. You have clean water resource. You have energy. You have clean. People start thinking about more about gender equality. People start thinking more about education, more about clean sanitation, and clean climate also. So basically, it supports as the backbone of all other SDGs. Now we have unequal global progress. So development gains are highly uneven. So basically, what the UN and the rest of the countries are saying, that we are very close to achieving SDGs, they are not SDG 8. And why is that? Because you see, the growth is only in few places of the world: China, India, Brazil, and some parts of East Asia, that is Japan and all. Japan, Singapore. These countries have a great growth rate. Not saying they don't. They have great growth rate. They have great industries and their GDPs are soaring high. Like we recently went to number 4, right? But that's all right. There's no. Have you like heard of a country called Nepal? Is there any growth there? No. What about the neighboring countries, the Balkan states? Are there growth there? No. There come around more than 50 countries under Asia itself. What about South America, entire continent? We know Brazil, okay, but what Argentina? What are all other countries there? They are not grown. We have a lot of countries that are not yet showing any growth, and but these numbers mask them. They are not shown properly, and so it creates like a fake sense of belief that we have reached or we are going to reach our goal, but we are way far behind. Targeted support is needed for these regions. We should make sure, like how we have defined SDG, if you see, is that uh, every region needs to make sure that their resources are going to this, and then they should meet such targets. But you have to think about it. The targets for China, targets for India, and targets for Nepal will be different. So, different targets. We should give different support from UN. But that's not happening. General growth is not enough to ensure decent work or decent economic growth for all. Now, this data measurement problem also, as I said, we are not measuring everyone properly. You can see in 2014 only 79 countries had sufficient data for many core indicators. You know what that means? That means before the SDGs were decided, only 79 countries of the more than 110 plus countries, around 150 or so many countries are there, but out of those, only 79 countries were had contributed to the data collection using which the SDGs were formed and the targets were laid down. So we don't have enough data. We don't know how those targets behave in cities, in like countries where there was no census or there was no survey. Informality and weak civilization system, disorder, labor and income missions. Exactly. How many people you think you know about what's the minimum wage and all? No, we don't. And what about those working in our shops and all? Do they? You think they know about minimum wage? No, they are just paid whatever and they take whatever. We need proper statistical systems on a national scale and regular surveys so that we can create these. We can have this bunch of data. We have this bunch of evidence using which we can make policies better, and then ultimately we can see how far we are from the like the SDG goals and all, so that we can pursue them better. We can get for more support, or we can provide for more support. We can do much more than that. What we are doing right now. So, global growth trends. So, as you would see that as soon as SDGs like implemented in 2015, you would see there's a sharp growth. There's like linear growth that highly beat the historical average of global GDP per capita. So basically, you can say that a lot of countries, a lot of people became rich. But is that true? Was that richness stable? No, it's not stable. They didn't become wealthy. They only became rich temporarily, because when the disaster struck in 2020-21, that is COVID, you can see a sharp downfall below the historical average, and it has continued for more than 3 years now. There's no growth right now, and is particularly true in low income countries, as you can see. So basically what I'm saying is that the SDG of economic growth and decent work that countries made us believe, that the politicians made us believe that we have almost reached, is not true, because if even one disaster strikes and we are going to fall so hard, then there's no stability in such growth and there's no sustainability in such growth. And how is it even sustainable development? Now we get to the employment reality. So what's happening? You can see that the market's bad and no one's getting job. But how bad is it? How bad is it? Well, global employment is at 5% in 2024. I'll tell you, in 2024 we had around 8 billion people, so that's 5% would be 400 million unemployed people. That is the highest rate of unemployment in a lot of years, a lot of decades, I would say. Global economic depressions are different, but even after global economic depressions, we survived better. We didn't learn, did we? If we had learned, we wouldn't be having these. And what about youth disconnections? You know what youth disconnection is? That is basically youth. There are three times more unemployed youth compared to adults. Now think about it, youth, the greatest workforce, the most energetic, young, the people who have time, the people who can take risks, who have energy to pursue their goals, ambitions, and career and can work, are unemployed. They are three times more unemployed. How is that beneficial to any economy? 20% are NEET. You know what NEET means? Neither in employment, education, or training. That is basically they are a liability. They're being a liability because the system is making them a liability. You know why? Skill mismatch. There's a rapid technological change. You can see the AI boom came, but no one was ready for it. Even now, after 2 years, there is a lack of AI engineers. There are not enough training systems that are leaving that many young people who are unprepared, and that's why even if there are jobs, either there are no jobs, and if there are jobs, there are not trained people. You know why? Because there is no training systems. How do you expect people to get trained when there is no cheap available training systems for all around the world, for everyone? Now, if we come to job quality and workforce, that is okay. A lot of people are unemployed. What about the ones that are employed? 57.8% of global workers are in informal employment. You know what that means? There are no contracts, there's no protection, they don't come under any yojanas or basically any laws protecting their working rights. They don't have rights because they are basically unemployed, but they're working, they're being paid, but uh, under legally they are unemployed still. That's a big issue. They don't have any occupational safety. In global rights, compliance declined 7% between 2015 to 23. In least developed countries, the decline reached 45%. You know what that means? That means that after the SDGs were implemented, and 8 years after that, global rights were global labor rights didn't comply. No one complied that because everyone went for economic growth, but they forgot the other half of the coin, decent work. No one cared about decent work. Everyone started exploiting the labor like the olden days, the bygone past centuries. But that's not what we want. That's not sustainable, is it? So what we can do, uh, we can formalize incentives. You see, because I'll tell you, if the informal employment or these weak enforcement of global rights and compliance and all that, what they do, they undermine the wages. People don't have money, they are limited access to benefits. We are losing on a lot of potential of work and a lot of potential of good growth generation, and people are losing out on their lives. People are losing a lot on what they can have now. Policy level. So basically what we can do, we can formalize incentives, social protection, strong labor inspection, support for small enterprises. Basically we can do a lot of things that are trying to give a support for them. We can try to create an inspection nationwide, like in stages, so that people are more included in the formal employment, and informal employment is converted to formal employment. We can have metrics related to that. We can have people check it out. The governments can take responsibilities, NGOs can take responsibilities, like people as us, we can take responsibilities for that too. We can have support for small entrepreneurs and all the small enterprises, so that they don't have to resort to uninformal, so like informal employment. They can just go for proper formal employment methods, and they can onboard workers properly with contracts. So I'll take three numbers that were the most important. Slowing growth. Global growth has only grown by 1.5% in 2025. You know what that means? No growth, almost no growth, zero, less, almost 1.5% by 2025. You know how low is that? There's less fiscal space for jobs and programs. Of course, there is no money to drive them. There's informal work. 58% are informal, limiting protections and economic stability. As you can see, after COVID, so many lost their jobs because no stability. Why? Because 58% of workers are informal. And the third biggest one, the youth. We have a 5% unemployment, and 20% of youth are disconnected from work or education. That's the worst. We are wasting a lot of workforce, not utilizing them, and costing us not just money but lost a lot of lives that will be lost because just that. So what is the takeaway? You see, to realize the SDG-8 truly, to have decent work and economic growth, policymakers must strengthen the statistical system. We need better numbers. We need better number and metrics that show better value. We need to prioritize formalization and youth employment, as I said. We need to protect labor rights more, mobilize the targeted physical support. That is, we need proper support for regions that are lacking. We need more support for them and less support for countries like China and US, which have already gone ahead. We need to properly allocate support to places where they need. And with that, I would like to end for today. That's the critical analysis of SDG 8, a decent work and economic growth. If I missed any points, I would like you guys to include in the comments. And thank you. Thank you for everyone to watch the video. Goodbye.